It's very nice for us blokes from Melbourne, Mr Demetrio and myself, being invited up here. After all, Melbourne is the football capital and it certainly is the music capital. It's a very interesting subject that we'll touched on, and I think that the days of wildness and rebellion and the Sex Pistols and throwing televisions out of hotel rooms seem to have been taken over by sports people, and music's become quite a big and a very serious business. If you would have ever told me that Jimmy Barnes would get up and do a breakfast television show and sing live, when I managed him for 20 years, he would have told me exactly where to go. So obviously there is a hell of a lot of change, and so there should be. Really, the big corporations have had many, many years. People say it's the death of the record companies. Well, it's not the death of the record companies. It's been a rebirth of a new way of attacking everything. The record companies, the major labels, got fat. For many years, they've let the legology stand in the way of new technology, which obviously resulted in iTunes coming along and making such a massive, massive difference. And it's good to see Samsung and a few competitors, and I'm sure coming along to split the market up. What's really changed is in the 70s, when I was really starting and growing up, an album cost you that much and a concert ticket cost you that much. Well, it's completely swapped the complete other way. Thank God I was involved with the live business. In fact, that's really where I started during school, running dances, and I was really interested to see at that stage and in that era that Australia felt that not only our music, but our clothes, our cars, everything was second rate to the import. And I'm happy to tell you that you've seen over the years how that's changed. But talk about the pricing. Well, I think between the very different formats that went on, whether we started off with vinyl, which, believe it or not, had the biggest year in the last, I think, 15 or 20 years of sales. Sure, it's a very small amount, but it's a real fan-friendly. And if you want to get into new technology, don't get confused. Sometimes the new technology is nowhere near as good as the old technology. An example of that, for example, is some of you might have seen a movie called Sound City, which was made by Dave Grohl, who was very passionate about a recording desk, an analogue recording desk. And people like himself and Neil Young were singing a message for a long time, and it took a while for it to resonate with me, but I totally get it now. And that is that different music in different forms can be homogenised in so many different ways, whether it be by corporations, whether it can be by technology, whether it can be by bad management, and whether it can just be crap music. But what Dave and Neil really got through to me, that real rock has been sanitised by some of the new technology. So, of course, we had our album collections, and then we had to restock and have 8 tracks, mini discs, CDs, and the list goes on. So it almost looked like a contortion where, if you look at it in hindsight, it was a great way to stay in business because everyone had to reload and restack and restart their collections again. And I think that the record companies, for a long time, were in a situation where they had an overpriced product. And it seems to have gone to the other extreme. And I think it's a good thing because there's so many different ways for artists to make money. Artists used to record and tour to promote the recordings. It's now virtually the other way around, where you record to promote your tours. Or as Billy Joel said to me about 12 years ago, and still to this day he hasn't put a new album out, but I'll never forget seeing him right before he went on stage at Madison Square Gardens, and we just confirmed a big Billy Joel tour. He said, "Michael, don't worry, I'm not making a new album." And I thought, what the hell does that mean? And after the show I said, "Billy, what do you mean?" He says, "Don't worry, hum me a song off the last 4 Elton John albums." So it's an extreme way of looking at it, but these days music is part of everyone's lives without any doubt. Kids as young as 3 and 4 are going to concerts. Kids and adults way older than me. So there are so many different forms of music. There's so many different styles of music. There's very disposable music at the moment. There's very disposable everything at the moment. And the one thing about all the instant gratification is as quick as it can come, it can go. The business from a record point of view is strong on a singles basis. Singles are selling 5 times the amount that any big single would have sold in the heyday of ABBA, Skyhook's Midnight Oil. And the great thing about the singles is, as much as the record business for many years grew up on hype and push, etc., and you could hype the charts and you could bullshit the charts, especially if you were the big guys, well, there ain't no bullshit in the iTunes because the facts come out straight out, they're the numbers. And the other great thing is you don't end up after hyping yourself into a hit getting a stacked load of the music coming back at you. So the record companies are rebuilding themselves. I think some of the big labels have been, I guess, fortunate in some ways, but fortunate for us independents in the sense that being involved in X Factor and being involved in The Voice, as far as Universal and Sony goes, are very good, very profitable. But if you took 10 people down the street and asked them who won the first series of The Voice, I guarantee you not more than 1 or 2 would even have a clue. We believe in building artist careers. Sure, if you can have one big smash hit single, it's a profitable item, but hit singles and hit songs generate incredible income. An artist or a songwriter will continue to get paid for the rest of their lives. And in America particularly, some bands can live off one hit and keep touring and there's half an original member. But going back to Dave Grohl and Neil, they've been great inspirations to me, but they've also shown that by belief, you can create a long-term career. Career development's been distracted by the massive successes of the X Factors and The Voices. So independent labels suddenly have got more relevance in the business, whether they're bigger independents like we are, whether they're artists that have got their own labels, which sometimes can be to their own detriment because they don't know exactly when to move and when to become part of a bigger independent or a bigger label. But there isn't any formula. Music, like I said, is everywhere. The greatest thing that those television shows have done is, I remember 15 years ago, my son, who was about 13 or 14 at the time, some of his mates had never been to a live concert. They'd never experienced live music. Computer games were the rage. So as much as we'll never find a Bob Dylan, a Leonard Cohen, or a Dave Grohl on any of those television shows, there will be a few artists that survive. Guy Sebastian's a classic example of someone that's got a real career. He was on the first Idol. Matt Cormie's coming around the corner, but you can really start counting them on one hand. But the great thing is that those shows were something that families could watch together, and all of a sudden young kids' interest in music was reinvented. So kids all of a sudden were going to live events. And I think people have got to understand that by having a couple of successful songs, for a start, radio that used to be leaders, who are now very much followers, although when you get the great airplay, don't knock it, you take it, but you can't rely on it. And I won't be one of the people like my ex-partner and good friend Michael Chugg sitting here or standing and ranting and raving about how much Australian artists deserve airplay and how much we need this and that. There are other ways to do it. This is what Google's all about, and it's about all the new forms. Spotify, which a lot of people in business think is going to take away from sales. Well, in England, Spotify's become, and YouTube have become, 2 of the most important indicators to Radio 1, Radio 2, Virgin Radio as to airplay. When I talk about radio, you have to separate Triple J out of the whole bunch. Triple J has been a lifeblood for Australian music, and so it should be. It's all our tax money, and it's a fantastic thing because there is most of the greatest crop of Australian talent I've ever seen. And I think their announcement recently about taking Dig and really not forgetting artists that are 35 plus that are really relevant to all of us that are growing up, etc., is a fantastic initiative, because some artists, when they get older, all of a sudden Triple J drops off them, and they feel like a divorcee, really. So I must say, I think that's going to make a big difference. 25 years ago, if you said to me that the biggest selling day we were going to have for what became a million-selling single in America, our very own Temper Trap from Melbourne, another act that's on an independent label, no different to Adele, no different to Mumford & Sons, because we have the time to believe in long-term artists and develop artists' careers. People have got to be ready, if they're real artists, when the sun shines on them, that they can deliver. If you haven't toured, like Paul Kelly said, he moved to Melbourne because Melbourne supported live music, had original members, original venues that would let original music play when the cover band craze was going on. And in fact, when we had the big march about live music in Melbourne, and 25,000 people marched to Parliament House, it even shocked me. But when Paul Kelly stood up there and said, "These venues are my university," it really rang true to me, because to be a great live, long-term artist, you've got to have a show, you've got to be experienced. It's not just a matter of one song going out there, and it's become very, very sophisticated in some of these productions. Some of the productions going out there on the road are almost like taking a theatre show that sits in a theatre for 6 months and trying to move it every second day. For example, the Kylie Minogue Aphrodite tour with 28 semi-trailers, a swimming pool and water effects and everything else. So music has come a long way. It's a very interesting fact at the moment that out of, I think, almost 75% of songs that have been put up, believe it or not, in America, have sold less than 10 copies each. I found that really hard to believe. For a start, you'd think you'd have more relatives than that, but they might have got it for nothing. But it's an incredible fact. So there's such a huge difference between success and non-success. A lot of artists that have had massive success are the ones that have never chased it. Music can be created. One Direction's a great example of that. But long-term, real careers are something that are developed, believed in, and take time. Decisions about where you can put your song to have a hit. For example, with the Temper Trap, we got a Diet Coke commercial that ran once in the Oscars in America. The next day was the biggest, it doesn't even say who the band is, it's a commercial, obviously Shazam, people find out quick. The next day was the biggest selling day that song ever had, and put that song on the map. Not radio, but using other ways. So there's a very fine line of what you do and what you do on the way up. People are doing syncs now to time with either sport, to time with television shows, the day of the old jingle. I'm sure a few of them will come back, but they're long gone. But placing music in the right spots at the right time are career makers or breakers. And a lot of the stuff that you're doing early on, you think you've got to protect your rights, but you're doing things and getting no money for it. But if it gets the song started and it gets the song going, no problem. And then when that song's made it, then if you haven't over-synced it, over-bastardised it and used it properly and carefully, then can come the big worldwide syncs, the big usages and big income. However, there's a lot of artists out there that do it either because they love doing it, they do it part-time. A lot of artists out there that aren't interested in a #1 hit record. Although with some of them, when it comes naturally, they accept it gladly. But some are out there because there's so many different styles of music, believing in it. And that's the great thing with all the new technology that's out there. You can find your own music. In fact, my son, actually I'm going to have to read this because he knows that I'll muck it up, has just developed, and as much as he's come in, and it's a great thing working with your kids because it actually consolidates the future. It means the mushroom name will continue on. And he's actually launched something called Purifier, which is basically, we've all got limited time, and you've got to consolidate what you want to hear or what styles you want to hear. In fact, I won't read it out, I know enough about it. It's something that is worth checking out because styles will continue to change. Something that isn't commercial today could be commercial tomorrow. The live income that artists can make is just become phenomenal. So now people are talking about the 360 deal, something that I did just out of necessity in the 70s, but we had a company that did merchandise, that did publishing and still does, that did touring. The great thing about the international stuff that I do with the live artists, and we've got a pretty good run at the moment, and don't ask me how I got Bruce Springsteen back again twice a year, I can't tell you, but I love it, and he's someone that would be the most incredible person for any young aspiring artist to go and see. The professionalism from him down and around him, he lives for his fans. It's all about the show. You won't see him going out to dinner after 9 o'clock, and there's true professionalism that's come into so much of it. And that doesn't mean that you're ruining creativity, but the first 1,000 fans you get are the most important 1,000 fans. Don't forget them. Don't try and rip them off. Take them on a journey with you, which people like Springsteen have done. For him, who's 64 years of age, to have such a resurgence in his career, it's unbelievable. You don't expect older acts to come back so strong. He hadn't been here for a long time, admittedly. He's coming back to play Perth for the first time ever, a fact that I found bizarre. He's going to New Zealand, where at 64 years of age, I think he played in New Zealand 10 or 12 years ago, got 25,000 people. We're doing 2 shows in Auckland and we've sold 71,000 out of 72,000 tickets, and it's not till March. So again, emphasising why I think it's a good thing that the dig is happening and that older artists get their chance. As far as monetising things, music is part of everyone's life today, whether it be with your children, with your parents. One of the greatest things of my life was at the Mushroom 25th anniversary concert at the MCG, one of the greatest stadiums in the world without a doubt. I had a couple of people come up to me and say, this is the first time I have ever been out. This is my father, this is my son. Music is covering all generations. It's there to be utilised properly. It's there for people to find themselves, but more importantly for us in the business, it's about us wondering if there's going to be an artist in 20 years' time that's lasted as long as the Eagles or Bruce Springsteen. Is it going to be that disposable? I think there will be some true artists that last that long, but people have got to be very careful what rights they're giving away, what rights. It's about controlling the rights as much as you can, and it's about not having people take that away from you. And the great thing that's changed is artists can have much more control in their career. Just to finish up how different it is, and whatever technology there is should never, ever affect the creative purpose or the creative destination. And I found that that's something that's happened. When you don't sit there and say, I'm going to write a hit song. Most of those things come naturally. People think Gautier just came. Where was he? He's a one-hit wonder. He'd been around for 7 or 8 years, playing the circuit, playing with the band. That just shows you what one song can do. But you have to be ready for that song, and you have to embrace all the new technologies. Never forget about your fans. Don't sell yourselves out completely. Don't let the media and the corporations use you. Work together for a common goal. Hope that's been a bit of an insight. I've been a lucky guy. Music has just been my life the whole way, and to think that it's grown up to the point it has been, it makes me feel very, very proud. But I think as Australians, the government have done shit. I just saw today $35 million for the state of Ontario put into developing local artists. We are forgetting our own artists. Andrew's going to speak. There's someone, or the AFL have been behind Australian artists. And at the moment, like I said, we have got the greatest group of talent. However, does it really need to become that artists have to go overseas. It's the same what's happened in film in recent years to have that success. On a final note, Sweet Disposition, which I had to release 2 times to have a massive triple platinum song in Australia, would have never most probably been a hit, except for the fact that it went top 5 in England first. Now, when you think about that song that will last and last, so many great songs get missed, and it's up to people like myself and people to find ways to get the great songs through to people. But it is all about careers, and keep enjoying the live concerts. And everyone that's bought Australian music and support it, you keep doing that too. Thank you.